In the Soviet period, important projects were realized in order to perpetuate the memory of genuine personalities. New architectural examples were created, busts were set, and monuments were raised. In Shusha, a great representative of classic Azerbaijani realist poetry who played an exclusive role in the development of the Azerbaijani literary language, Mullah Pana Vagif's mausoleum and bust, poet, philologer, painter, calligrapher and musician Mir Mohsen Nawab's grave monument, which was set up by UNESCO, granddaughter of Ibrahim Khan, daughter of Mehdi Gulu Khan, initiator of the water pipeline to Shusha, poetess Khurshid Banu Natavan's bust, composer who founded modern Azerbaijani professional music and opera in all Muslim East with his Layli and Majnun, staged for the first time on January the 12th, 1908, musician, publicist, dramatist, pedagogue Uzair Hajibeyev's home museum, monument and bust, and founder of Azerbaijani professional vocal school Bülbül's home museum and bust. In other districts, the famous representative of the 17th century Ashikh literature, Sari Ashikh's Memorial Museum in Lachin, Azerbaijani Ashikh poetry female founder Ashikh Pari's monument, and hero of the Soviet Union Jamil Ahmedov's bust and Memorial Museum in Jabrail, Georgian poet Fizuli's monument in the town bearing his name, Natavan's grave monument and Uzey's monument in Aghdam, the 19th century peasant movement's leading representatives Gashakh Nabi and Hajar's busts in Gubatlı. In the Soviet period, special attention was paid to the restoration of historical monuments of Azerbaijan as well. Of the great number of monuments planned for restoration in Shusha, in this period, the work was completed on the castle walls, Ibrahim Khan's castle, mosques of Yukhare and Ashaghe Gavher Agha, Sadle, Mamaye, Haji Yusufli, Kacherli, and the Teze Mahalla, caravanserais of Khanlik Mukhtar and Agha Garaman Mirsiyab, mansions of Natavan, Ughurlu Bey, the Memandarovs and Zohrabeyovs, and the Hammam Shirin Su. As for other districts, restoration was carried out on Sultan Buttum in Lachin, the Genceser Cloister in Kalbajar, Chalabiler Mosque Complex in Jabrail, Haji Elekber Mosque, Gargha Bazar Mosque and Caravanserai in Fizuli, Azgaran Castle in Khojali, Town and Giyazlı Mosques, complex of Imarat of Pana Khan, tombs of Gutlu Musa Olu and Kangarli in Aghdam, and other monuments. Azerbaijan, which redeclared its independence in 1991, was recognized by the international community within the borders of 86,600 square kilometers. However, Armenia didn't want to accept the existing reality and began an undeclared war against Azerbaijan. The aggression resulted in the occupation of a great portion of our country, leaving about 1 million Azerbaijanis as refugees and internally displaced persons. As a result of the occupation of Shusha, Kalbajar, Lachin, Gubatlı, Zengilan, Jabrail, Fizuli, Khojavand, Khojali, Aghdam and Terter districts, 7 villages in the district of Kazakh and Kerki village of Sadarek district, 1,891 cultural resources, including 738 monuments, 28 museums with more than 83,500 exhibits, 4 picture galleries, 14 memorial complexes, and 1,107 cultural establishments were left in the hands of the enemy. The province, once charming the people with its every state, was turned to ruins. And every minute our territory spent under occupation separates us further from our cultural heritage, which had survived the test of millennia and which is of unprecedented importance in the study of Azerbaijani history. As the victim of the Armenian aggression, the traces of our past in these territories are faced with complete elimination. The years which have passed since the ceasefire of 1994 prove the point. The damage to the Azerbaijani cultural heritage was far worse than during the military phase of the war. The aggression against the cultural heritage of Shusha town, the historical and architectural reserve, started with a square spring, and the Yukhare and Ashaghe Gavher Agha mosques and madrasas, and then targeted all monuments. Other mosques, examples of Islamic architecture, the mansions, hammam and caravanserais, with their attractive architecture and which were considered historical and architectural monuments, were destroyed, burnt and rendered unusable. Under the disguise of restoration, an architectural example of the 19th century where Aslan Garasharov, hero of the Second World War, lived, was razed to the ground and 3 new Armenian houses were built in its place. The architectural aspects of the Khanlık Muhtar Caravanserai and the Sadlı Mosque were changed, and all traces of a record with Arabic characters on this mosque were removed. Arabic writings on the 19th century Mamai spring were also defaced and replaced with the Armenian cross and writings. Unfortunately, this list goes on. No trace remains of the famous beauty of Aghdam, one of the distinguished towns of Azerbaijan. The state of the town mosque, which had a special share in this beauty, is evident. Those who were not satisfied with the sorrowful state of the sacred mosque building turned it into a stable for different animals, including pigs. The Garga Bazar Mosque and Caravanserai in Fizuli are also being used for the same purposes. Jazd, Aghdam and Fizuli. Cultural resources, including ancient cemeteries in all our territories under occupation, Kalbajar, Lachin, Gubatle, Zangilan and other districts continue sharing the same fate with Shusha, Aghdam and Fizuli. The collection of ancient coins, gold and silverware, rare and precious stones, carpets and other handicraft saved for years in the Kalbajar Museum of History, museums in Shusha, the Lachin Museum of History, the Aghdam Museum of History and the Bread Museum were also destroyed, plundered, and their exhibits put on sale around the world. By the way, the busts of the poetess Natavan, of composer Uzair Hajibeyov, and of singer Bulbul were saved as they were being sold for scrap metal in Georgia. However, the silver handbag, an exponent of the Lachin Museum of History, was impossible to save. Its fate was sealed at a Sotheby's auction in London for $80,000. As for the fate of the Christian architectural examples of the Caucasian Albanians, it was obscured about 2 centuries ago. One of the bitter results of Russia's plans to occupy Turkey was the fate of the heritage of the Christian Albanians. In exchange for their service to Russia and implementation of its occupational policy, a long-standing dream of the Armenian religious authorities was realized. The independent Albanian Catholicate was liquidated and all its parishes were subordinated to the Ejmiadzin Catholicate. From this day on, the policy of assimilation of Albanians by Armenians strengthened, and in the Armenian history, which is rewritten under the guidance of the Ejmiadzin Patriarch, the territories historically populated by Caucasian Albanians were presented as Armenian ones, and the Albanians as Armenians. Opening churches and schools in the areas settled by the Albanians, Ejmiadzin, through its emissaries, introduced the doctrine of their Armenian origins. The struggle against any element impeding this crafty policy was merciless, and the richness with important facts denying the Armenian myths of the library of the Ganjaser Catholicate, carrier of the centuries-old history of Albanians, center of the independent Albanian Catholicate by the early 19th century, with what the fate of Christian Albanians was closely connected, was the reason for its transfer to Ejmiadzin and liquidation. The organized policy of Armenianization of Albanians was applied to the Albanian monuments as well. Elements alien to Albanian architecture and Armenian writings were grafted into these monuments. Albanian crosses were replaced with Armenian crosses, and all useful means were tested to remove the traces of this ancient culture. In 1938, an expedition of the Institute of History of the Azerbaijani Academy of Sciences discovered a 17th century cross in the Kamshivan cloister in Büyükadamurad village, Gedebe district. The cross, which had been stolen by helicopter, was later found in the yard of Ejmiadzin.